everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Seb. And we're still talking about the fantastic Mr. Fox, exactly. So this is a pretty exciting story, isn't it?
It is. And I think we learned, in day 2, we read that, okay, the farmers are finally getting to them. They're digging deeper into the hole. And it seems like, they're trying to get even more underground. And I don't know if, well, I've read the story, but then I don't know if you guys feel like, what's going to happen next.
Exactly. It feels like there's a bit of a cliffhanger. Now, a cliffhanger is basically something that happens in books or movies or TV shows where an episode or a book ends in a very dramatic situation. So it ends somewhere where you don't know what's going to happen next. So, for example, I don't know, somebody's tied up on a train track and you don't know if they're going to get hit by the train, and then the book ends. That's a cliffhanger. So that's kind of what we saw at the end of day 2, isn't it?
That's right. So I really want to keep reading with the students because I want to see what everyone's reaction to this is, because it doesn't seem like a very good situation for Mr. Fox and his family. It seems like it might be coming to an end soon.
Exactly. Okay, well, let's finish with our introduction and get back into the story.
Reading.
Fantastic Mr. Fox. Days went by and Mrs. Fox grew weak from hunger. Mr. Fox and the children continued to dig deeper into the hill. Then they ran into another underground family, the Badgers. Mr. Badger was angry that farmers were digging up the hill and blamed Mr. Fox. Mr. Fox admitted his mistake, but said that he had a plan to fix things. Mr. Badger was one of the best diggers around. With his help, Mr. Fox would be able to make a tunnel straight to the farms. That way, they could get food back to their families, and the farmers would never realize what was happening. Every night after that, Mr. Badger and Mr. Fox visited the 3 farms. This time, they only took a little so the farmers wouldn't notice. Bogus, Bunce, and Bean, meanwhile, remained at the hole on the hill. It's said that to this day, they're still there, waiting for a fox who will never come out.
Okay, so we rejoin the story and it says, days went by and Mrs. Fox grew weak from hunger. Okay, so we have our first phrase in there, go by. When time goes by, it passes. So if we say months go by, for example, then we mean months passed or months later. Okay, so time has gone by. So we know that the Fox family has been in the hole for a very long time. They've been in the hole for days. Mr. Fox hasn't gone out to get any food, and they're probably very hungry. And that brings us to our first vocab word, hunger. So hunger is a noun, and it's the feeling of wanting to eat. You feel hunger when it's been a long time since your last meal, and you satisfy your hunger by eating. So Emma, let's look at an example sentence. Emma tried to focus on her exam, but her hunger kept her from thinking clearly. Okay, so hunger can actually mean other things too. It can also mean the problem of lots of people not having enough food to eat. You might have heard people talking about world hunger. This is the problem of many people not having enough access to food. When a lot of people don't have enough food, they experience extreme hunger, and that is what we call a famine. Okay, so a famine isn't happening in the hole in the story, but Mr. Fox and Mrs. Fox are definitely feeling very hungry right now.
So what they need to do is they need to try to figure out a way to get even more food. Also, there's another fun word that I just thought of. Sometimes when people get hungry, they can actually feel the emotion of being angry as well. So you're so hungry to the point where you get really angry. So you get hangry. Do you get hangry sometimes?
Oh, I get in a really bad mood. I get very bad-tempered when I haven't eaten enough, when I want to eat, but I don't have enough food. So
I'm
I
the
get
same,
hangry,
actually.
definitely.
I get hangry a lot too. If I need to eat, I need to eat. We're not sure
Yes.
if Mr. Fox and Mrs. Fox feel that way, but next in the article it says, Mr. Fox and the children continued to dig deeper into the hill. Okay, so their plan so far is just to keep going into the hill to maybe go even more underground. I think it's funny. Why don't they dig a hole to like the other side? And then
maybe,
I don't know.
Perhaps we'll see. But I think that something else is going to happen first, because then, the article says, then they ran into another underground family, the badgers. Okay, so badgers are another animal that we see a lot in the UK, that live in burrows, in holes, and you see them on farms sometimes. It's a kind of black and white animal, with 4 legs and kind of a striped face. And they really, really love to dig. Okay, they're always digging holes, and farmers find them really annoying because they dig holes everywhere. Anyway, they run into a family of badgers. Now, when you run into someone, you meet them by accident. So, for example, I ran into my friend at the supermarket yesterday. We didn't plan on going shopping together. I was just buying my groceries, I was shopping, and I saw my friend there. So I can say that I ran into her. So when we say run into, we mean by accident. Okay, so let's move on to the next sentence. How do the badgers feel about this problem, this situation with Bunce, Boggis, and Bean?
All right, well, here it says Mr. Badger was angry that farmers were digging up the hill and blamed Mr. Fox, okay? Actually, I kind of understand why Mr. Badger would be angry because, you know, they had a very peaceful life underground. Nothing bothered them. But I guess it's also because they feel like Mr. Fox probably disturbed the peace a little bit. So they were quite angry with Mr. Fox when they realized, oh, here you are, you're here into my house. And the reason for that is because these farmers are coming after them.
Exactly. So Mr. Fox, he's a good-hearted person. He's a kind-hearted person. And Mr. Fox admitted his mistake, but said that he had a plan to fix him. Of course he has a plan to fix it. He has a plan to fix everything. So he said he had a plan to fix things. Okay, so when you admit a mistake or an error, you tell people that that mistake or error was your fault. If, for example, you forgot to do your homework and then you told your teacher that you forgot to do your homework, then you admitted to your teacher that the reason you don't have your homework is you forgot. Here's another example sentence. James admitted to his mum that he had eaten her birthday chocolates. Okay, it seems that he's been very naughty, but he's telling her, so he's admitting it to her. You can also use admit for other reasons too. So we can use admit to talk about our feelings, especially feelings that are private or embarrassing. So for example, Helen admitted she felt shy when she first met Sue.
Or maybe sometimes people, like boys and girls, they might admit to each other that, oh, I like you and stuff like that. I think that's really cute.
I have a crush on you.
Aw, that's so cute. All right, so let's continue reading. Next in the article, it says, Mr. Badger was one of the best diggers around, okay? So although this does sound like, you know, a really, really bad thing that's happening, oh no, like their whole family and the whole kind of hill underground kind of lifestyle is in danger, but I think Mr. Fox has a plan. And it's also good that we know that Mr. Badger, he's a really, really good digger, okay? We use the word digger here, and it just means someone who's very good at digging. Usually, when you add ER to the end of words, it means that this person, it's a person that does the verb in the front, okay? So a digger is someone who's really, really good at digging. Maybe animals. We use that to describe animals better. For example, a teacher, okay? A teacher is a person who teaches, okay? If you're a painter, it means you're a person who paints. Or if you're a writer, it means you're a person who writes. So usually, if you add ER to the end, it just means you're a person that does this thing, okay?
Exactly.
Yeah, and also these things don't always have to be a very, very serious verb. It doesn't always have to be, I teach, I paint, I write. You can also have fun with it as well. We can also even sometimes kind of invent words too. For example, if you're good at throwing parties, we can say that, or I can say that I am a good party thrower. And this, you just add ER to the end of thrower. And it just means that you're a person who's really good at throwing parties. Now, yeah, this is not a word that really you can search for in the dictionary, but it's a fun word that you can use informally to kind of, have fun with it.
Yeah, it makes sense. Everybody knows what you mean. So Mr. Fox, he's not throwing any parties. He's got a different plan. He's going to try and find a way around the farmers. With his help, Mr. Fox would be able to make a tunnel straight to the farms, okay? So he's going to dig another tunnel which goes around the farmers and goes straight to the farms. What is a tunnel? Well, a tunnel is an underground passage that goes from one place to another. When you drive through Taiwan's mountainous regions, for example, you might go underground to get through a mountain. When you do that, you're going through a tunnel. In the UK, the most famous tunnel is the Channel Tunnel, which connects the UK to France. It's a 50-kilometer tunnel that goes under the sea and comes out in France. So we can actually get the train from London to Paris. So here's an example sentence using tunnel. The tunnel through this mountain is blocked. We have to take the slow road over the mountain.
All right, so let's continue reading. Let's see if this plan really will work and why are they doing that. They said that way they could get food back to their families and the farmers would never realize what was happening. So you see, I did mention something earlier where they can just dig, another pathway or another way to the opposite side of the hill or to another way. So out of the hill so they don't have to keep digging down. So they did think about something smart. They thought about digging their way to the farmers' kind of houses. So here they said that the farmers would never realize what was happening. Now the word realize is a verb and it means to understand or be aware of something. And it just means you kind of figured something out. For example, we can use it in a sentence like this. Dad did not realize he left the dog outside until we heard a loud bark outside. Okay, so Dad didn't know, the dog is not at home. He didn't figure it out until he heard the noise from outside.
Exactly. So every night after that, Mr. Badger and Mr. Fox visited the 3 farms. Okay. So now that they have a tunnel, they can get around and get to the farms without the farmers noticing.
All right, so next it says, this time they only took a little so the farmers wouldn't notice. All right, because if they take a lot of things all at one time, the farmers would know, hey, someone's been here, someone's been taking something. So they were very, very careful. They only took a little bit just to make sure the farmers don't know of their plan, or else it could get ruined again.
Exactly. So Boggis, Bunce, and Bean, meanwhile, remained at the hole on the hill. Okay, so there's a couple of words there that are very important. The first one we saw was meanwhile, wasn't it?
That's right. Meanwhile is an adverb and it means at or during the same time. So it's kind of like multitasking. You're doing 2 things at the same time. For example, we can say Mom was cooking dinner. Meanwhile, the kids hurried to finish their homework. So these 2 things are happening exactly at the same time. And we also saw the word remain as well, right?
We did. So remain means to stay at the same place or with the same group of people. It could also mean to stay behind while others are gone. Okay, so what we're saying there is instead of going back to their houses, Bunce, Boggis, and Bean stayed at the hill. They stayed waiting at the hole for them to come out because they were sure that these foxes, they're going to die or they're going to come out eventually. For example, another example we could use, when you go off to college, some people might go to different cities to go to school. However, if you choose to stay in your hometown, we can say that you've chosen to remain in your hometown for college. Okay? So here's another example sentence for remain. A few of us went out to grab groceries together, while the others remained at the house to clean and prep dinner. So what happened to Bunce, Bogus, and Bean?
Okay. So according to the story in the article, it's said that to this day, they're still there, waiting for a fox who will never come out. Okay, so silly them, they're kind of like stubborn. They don't know, like, oh, maybe there's something else happening somewhere else and they had no idea this was happening. Let's first take a look at this phrase. It said that to this day. Okay, we can kind of break it down a little bit. Okay, we can first look at this phrase, it said that, because this kind of contains two phrases. It is said that somebody does something, and it just means 据说. It means that the sentence follows or comes from a saying or a type of common knowledge or maybe even a myth. So, for example, we can say, it said that Karen got thrown out of the supermarket. Okay, 就是据说, or like we heard that this is what happened. Now, the next phrase, to this day, means up to now, even until now, or continuing on until today. For example, Elizabeth's husband passed away, but she still wears the necklace her husband gave her to this day. Okay, so if you use it together, it just basically means we heard, or so it's said, that even until now, these farmers are still there. They're still waiting for the fox that will never come out, but they're going back to their houses to steal their food. How clever.
Exactly. Very, very clever. Okay, so the book ends by saying that Bunce, Bogus, and Bean are probably still at the den, waiting to catch Mr. Fox. They were so obsessed with catching him that they forgot about literally everything else in their lives. They certainly sound like stubborn people. Okay,
very stubborn.
That's very stubborn and very silly, because in the end, they're losing all of their food. Mr. Fox is still taking it. Okay, so that's where we end the story. I hope you guys enjoyed reading that as much as we did. We're going to check out our For You chat question now, so don't go anywhere.
For You chat.
Okay, so our For You chat question is going to help us kind of review what we've looked at in the story. Look back over the 3 days. What do you think this story says about humans and the environment? Okay, so we're talking about a theme in this story.
Right. I think over the story and this theme that we have is, I think humans and animals should learn how to peacefully, kind of work together and kind of live together in harmony. I think that's just like probably the best situation. Like, yeah, you have to understand that animals need to eat, as well. So maybe it's okay to let them nibble on a few, carrots or cabbages or something, and that we should try to be peaceful with each other. Exactly. I don't know. For me, that's what I think. What do you think?
I agree. I think that the story, it suggests to me that these farms are so big that there's no food for Mr. Fox to get somewhere else. So because, people, we take up so much space, we have big cities and factories and farms everywhere, eventually we're going to force those animals to not have anything to eat. And so we need to think about how we can minimize or make our impact on the environment less. Okay, so that's what I think about it. You guys might have some different opinions, so why don't you guys talk about that now? And we will join you again soon for another great literature article. For English for You, I'm Seb.
I'm Tiffany.
And we'll see you again soon. Bye.
Bye.
Vocabulary Review. Hunger. Peter hadn't eaten for 2 days, and his hunger was making him weak. Admit. Sally didn't like Brett, but she had to admit he was a good baseball player. Tunnel. The tunnel allows cars to drive right through the mountain. Realize. Sorry, I didn't realize I took your pen. It looks so similar to mine. Meanwhile. Sharon went into the store. Meanwhile, Her friend waited in the car. Remain. Tom was told to remain in bed until his fever was gone.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作。活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net